All right, and we're back to the Python Institute, this time lab number 3.1.2.10, working with the continue statement. Previously, we worked with the break statement. The continue statement is kind of the opposite, of the break statement. So let's go ahead and see. The objectives: use the continue statement in loops and use real-life situations in computer code. All right, so the scenario: the continue statement is used to skip the current block and move ahead to the next iteration without executing the statements inside the loop. So if we have a loop that does something and we use the continue command or the continue statement, it will skip that loop and move on to the next one. So let's see, this can be used for both while loops and for loops. So your task here is very special. You must design a vowel eater. Write a program that uses a for loop, and the for loop is actually already provided for us. Conditional execution using an if-then statement and the continue statement. Your program must ask the user to enter a word. Use the user word equals user word dot upper to convert the word entered by the user to uppercase. We'll talk about that in a little while. Don't worry too much about it. Basically, just do what they say. And then use conditional execution and the continue statement to eat the following vowels: A, E, I, O, U, but not sometimes Y. Print the uneaten letters to the screen, each of them on a separate line. And there's some test data provided. This probably makes a little bit more sense to what we're doing there. Somebody types in Gregory, and so we see the capital G, capital R. The E is gone. The E is not printed, just the capital G, another capital R, and then the capital Y. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. So let's go ahead and see how this starts to work. Now, granted, there are a couple of different ways we could do this. We could do this without using the continue statement, but that's kind of defeats the whole purpose of having the class. So what we want to do, we want to start off by prompting the user to enter a word and assign it to the user word variable. So we need to create a variable called user word. And we want to get input from the end user. So equals input, enter a word. All right. And let's see, it also told me to use a upper command. User word equals user word dot upper function. So I'm going to do just what it says there. User word equals user word dot upper. And actually, just to see how what this does, let's comment out our for loop there, and let's go ahead and run this. And so now if I go ahead and I type in a word like hello, it didn't, I thought I told it to print it out. Okay, print user word. There we go. Try that one more time here. Oops. Okay, so now I enter a word hello, and basically upper just puts everything to uppercase. Piece of cake. So what we do is we assign the value hello to user word. We then say, hey, make all that uppercase and reassign the value to user word. All right, so let's get rid of that print statement since that was just for an evaluation. The next thing we need to do is, I commented that, I'll uncomment it. We get into a for loop, and this says for letter in user word. You may not have seen this before in Python. Basically, we've given it a word, and we wanted to do a for loop over every single letter there. Python automatically knows the smaller chunks of a word is a letter, and so it automatically will break that out for us. Let's see. So let's start off with just getting the printed out portion there for us. So what I'll do is I will just say print letter. So we'll start off really quickly and we'll just go through each letter and we'll print it out here. And now if we run it, and I type in hello, then it's going to print out the letters of hello. Because each print statement is on its own, or because each letter is on its own print statement, there's an implicit carriage return or enter at the end, and therefore it puts it on a separate line. So the next thing we need to do is we need to evaluate if these are parts of A, E, I, O, U. So we need a conditional statement if something is in A, E, I, O, U. And there's a couple of different ways I could do this. And I want it to be before this print command. I could say if letter double equal and capital A. And then it tells me to use the continue command to continue on. So let's try that. If I type in, say, anagram, well, it went ahead and it found the letter A and it escaped them and then continued on. So the continue statement basically said, hey, you know what? I found a letter A, so don't go to this command. Just go back up to the beginning of the for loop. And that worked for the letter A. But if I do that again and I type in a different word such as hello, which has both an E and an O, they're not captured because they're not the letter A. So I could continue this on and I could make it a else if letter equals E. Excuse me, capital E. And then else if I, else if O, else if U, and I can have a bunch of else if statements to be able to capture all of these situations. But there's a better way. There's always a better way. In Python, I can actually use the command in. So I can actually say if the letter here is in this string, and in that case, I can actually type in multiple letters in that string. And so we will evaluate each one of these letters, but first the A, then the E, then the I, then the O, then the U, against this letter and say, is it in there? If so, then go ahead and exit out. So if I go ahead and I run this, and again, I type in hello, where I have both an E and an O, it's going to evaluate each letter one at a time and say, oh yes, I found an E. The second letter of hello was E, and I find it right there. The fourth letter was L, the fifth letter was L. Those are not in this string, so I'm going to go ahead and print it out. However, the fifth letter is an O, which I also find over there, so I will print, or I won't print that out. I will hit the continue, which causes the loop to reoccur. Well, let's see if we've got everything. It gives us sample data of Gregory. So let's go ahead and try that. Gregory. And we can see the vowels were eaten. Let's try abstemious. And BSTMS, that looks correct. And then it gives one more IOUEA. And nothing was returned. So there we go. We've got our ugly vowel eater utilizing a couple of new things we hadn't seen before. We went with the .upper function in order to convert the words into uppercase. We broke a word up into multiple letters so we can choose each letter one at a time. And then we used the in command in order to look in each one of those letters in the string to be able to see if the string actually matched somewhere in there.